I'm joined now by Aaron David Miller. He is a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, a friend of the show. Aaron, I'm always glad to have your perspective. You've written this week that this is a representation within the administration and those tasked to negotiate with the Iranians, from your vantage point, a failure of diplomacy. Walk me through that.
It was a broader issue. Thanks for having me, Major. Look, the president's deployed his son-in-law and his best friend to negotiate the three of the most complicated conflicts in the international system. Russia-Ukraine, number one, Israel-Gaza, number two. And then presumably until determination by the administration that negotiations were not going to work, to negotiate with the Iranians. It's really difficult. The last time anyone pulled off a trifecta like that was 71 and 73 when Kissinger extricated the U.S. from Vietnam War, the Paris Peace Accords, opened China with Richard Nixon, and negotiated three disengagement agreements following the October Arab-Israeli War. The administration doesn't have that kind of bandwidth. And I think we find ourselves in a situation in which Russia-Ukraine negotiations are not just stalled, they're failing. Reports today on the Russians actually providing real-time intelligence to the Iranians about U.S. deployments and ops is a huge problem. And Donald Trump, who has tremendous influence over Putin, who has failed to criticize him once since his operation began, ought to call in that shit almost immediately. So look, these are hard issues, and you can invite two of the best negotiators I know, the late Henry Kissinger and my former boss, James Baker, down here, and he'd struggle with him as well.
So when the president posts, as he did this morning, Aaron, David Miller, that only unconditional surrender from Iran will be the acceptable end of this war, what do you think that means? What do you think that looks like? And do you think that is, based on what we know now, achievable?
Yeah, the problem is 2 hours later, he qualified that to Barack Ravid, to Axios, by basically saying, what I really meant to say was that we need to destroy the Iranian military. There was no talk of surrender. Look, I think the administration, president in particular, since he's calling the shots, no doubt about that, toggles back and forth between the avowed objectives to basically completely undermine Iran's capacity to project its power beyond its borders and to damage the internal instruments of state repression on one hand, with on the other, trying to get an outcome that he can actually claim was transformative. That is to say, find another regime, a Delcy Rodriguez in Iran, do a Venezuela, something that will tell the world that the Iranian polity is not only going to do this for the next year, because we so retarded his capacity, it's not going to do it again. And that is a much, much tougher lift.
Aaron David Miller, I want to ask you one other question I put to the Secretary, Pete Hegseth. I said, what about the Kurds? You know they're massing on the border, meaning in northern Iraq, the Iranian border, and they want to go in. He said, we're aware of that. I said, would we cooperate? He said, I'm not going to discuss that. He said, but we haven't coordinated. We haven't done anything. He was trying to be not dismissive, but certainly he did not want to lean in to something that would sound encouraging to them from his position as Secretary of Defense. Walk my audience through the importance of the Kurd question here.
Well, what, 10% of the Iranian population of 90 plus million are Kurds. They have capacity, there's no doubt about it. But I'm not sure any externally backed insurrection by a minority, and the Kurds certainly have a right to participate, Kurdish Iranians, in the determination, self-determination of the Iranian public. But it's unclear to me how significant a factor CIA or Israeli or even American-backed support for an insurgency along the border would be. If it got serious, it might be a distraction for the IRGC, another headache, something for them to worry about. But it also risks, of course, two things. Number one, the moral hazard of encouraging the Kurds yet again, as we've done in Syria, only basically to tell the Kurds, well, tough luck, the central government of Syria is going to forcibly or not integrate you into the state. And again, in the wake of the Iraq War. And there's a Turkish factor here, too. If Iran truly is hollowed out, the new regional the new regional power, other than the Israelis, is Turkey. And that presents significant problems for key Arab states and for the Israelis. Let's see where we are a week from now.
Understood. Aaron David Miller, always appreciate your time and perspective. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Major.